Welcome into my state of mind here on WPRI.com, the mini version. The big show today, 7:30 on MyRI TV and Fox Providence at midnight, and of course here online later on, is with Attorney General Peter Nerona. He will talk about law enforcement oversight and a couple of initiatives he's borrowed from his federal government experience. It's worthy of note taking. It's an important time, and of course, with things that have happened in Minneapolis and Atlanta, the timing is right for the conversation anyway here in Rhode Island. In the meantime, speaking of conversations, Mike Stanton, former Providence Journal longtime writer, now author, journalist, professor at UConn, wrote an op-ed piece in the Boston Globe, and he spoke with me on WPR Radio earlier today about the history of slave ownership in the state. Not just the slave trade, but the ownership for 100, 150 years here in Rhode Island, where very much like the South, Rhode Island was very much into this kind of business before the abolitionists took over, and well, at least that mindset did, and the Revolutionary War began, and up through the Civil War. Rhode Island's reputation changed, of course, and we tend to forget that there were a good 100, 150 years of slavery, pretty prominent in the state. And why is that important? Because it seems like a lot of people don't know it, or have forgotten it, or don't want to think about it. And there is a little bit of northern bias when it comes to slavery. It's like, hey, we didn't do that stuff. Well, yeah, we did. And why is that important? I think it's important because I think if people were educated about this, they might see this whole name change thing differently. Here's the thing. That little exercise that Governor Raimondo pulled yesterday with her press conference over her executive order to remove the Providence plantations from the paperwork, and of course the General Assembly leadership followed suit, and the state treasurer followed suit on the checks and all that kind of thing. That was a way to be able to say, you know what, this is a quick and dirty response to the new trend. And by the way, it's a national headline, and I hope Joe Biden likes it. Because the chances of a referendum being turned around from a 4-1 margin 10 years ago are slim and none, and they know it. Mike Stanton said, you know what, I think the pulse of the people is going to change, and they're going to vote to remove those names, the words, Providence Plantations. And I had to respectfully disagree with him. No. People are in this state are not walking around worrying about this. And those who are have an uphill battle to explain to those who aren't why they should. And if Governor Raimondo had done the real earnest thing yesterday and said, I could play around with an executive order, but I'm going to build a coalition, and I'm going to tell you what the budget is to remove and, plantation names from state house, courthouses, everything. And our financial instruments and the legal documentation necessary. I'll tell you what it's going to cost, and I'm going to tell you why the cost is worth it. And I'm going to build the coalition, and we're going to get this thing done. And rather than do it the cheap way, I'm going to urge the House of Representatives to get back into session, pass a referendum question immediately, like the Senate did, so we've got running room to make the case to the people. Instead, she said, I hope it's on the ballot, and I'll work really hard, meaning she'll call a couple of more press conferences. This is the kind of, it's the kind of leadership that actually has kept minority constituencies at bay. You give them enough to make them feel like you're paying attention, but you don't give them what they're really looking for, which is the hard work and diligence to win the game. You have a great night.